The Brotherhood's siege is in vain. I am Dracul, Prince of Darkness.
Hello there, Seraphim17 once again. This is my Lords of Shadow 2, Prince of Darkness difficulty walkthrough. I don't know if you noticed when the video began, as I began the intro, but there was a noise that happened. It was kind of an obnoxious high-pitched noise. And that is the sound of your focus meter draining. I haven't really explained focus because it's explained in the game and it's something that's carried over from the original. But essentially, when you chain hits and you don't get hit, you fill a bar at the bottom. When it fills completely, every hit you put on a boss or on an enemy will generate the chaos or void potential. And you might see it in this fight, you might not, I can't remember. This is kind of tricky because these little dudes can be armoured, the big dude is armoured, and you bounce off of armour with standard attacks, which... You know, I like the fact they've tried to add something new to the system, but some of the stuff, that was kind of funny. If you didn't see what happened, he picks up his little dudes and he chucks them or kicks them at you, and it's an unblockable, and unfortunately I must have not been watching him or I evaded wrong and I got hit, so you want to be careful. But this fight looks more challenging than it is because it's crowd control 101, and you don't have iframes in the riposte after a sync block, which seems like a foolish idea on the game's behalf, but it's just how they handled it. So often what you'll find on Prince of Darkness difficulty, because the enemies are very aggressive and they attack feverishly, whenever you're in a group of people and you sync block something, the game slows down, it gets all flashy, it looks really nice. You can sometimes take a hit in that animation, and on this difficulty some of the hits really hurt, some of them don't, but for the most you don't really want to take unnecessary damage. So if there's a group of enemies around you and you do a sync block, I recommend blocking afterwards or trying to get a second sync before attacking, because I can't even tell you how many times I've been hit when I had the advantage, and it's another one of those oversights that potentially could be intentional, but you just don't really know, so you have to put up with it. That right there, that noise was me losing my sync bar because, as you just saw, I got hit. But the move I'm doing there, when he kind of looks like he's reeling in a rope, it's when you hold Y. It's like a sustained whip or something. It's really fast and it's kind of damaging. It generates about 20 points of damage, but it's quick. And if you can get on a stunned enemy, you can generate a ton of damage really quickly. There it is. It's the sustained sweep, it's called. And it's a really good damage dealer. It's not quite as good as the guard breaking one when you hold X and then proceed to tap X, because that's a move that breaks guards and then does like 50 points of damage. And if you're playing and you're wondering what the numbers are because you don't have them, there's an option in the game's menu to turn them on. They'll show you information like damage you're doing, damage you're taking, and experience you're gaining. You can turn the life bars off if you don't like the look of those. You can even turn the quick time events off, which you might notice on my guide I haven't done any of them, and I've turned them off, and the reason for that is I hate them. I think quick time events have gradually started to ruin games. There is literally a time and a place for them, and in a game like this I just don't think they work. I don't think they ever worked. And the first game had some horrendous quick time events where if you fucked them up, and you could because they were very quick, you had to fight bosses again. Like, really weird stuff. So I turned them off, is the moral of that story. You know, if you're playing Azura's Wrath, they make the game. If you're playing Shenmue, they make the game. If you're playing Resident Evil 4, they piss you off, especially on professional. But like, God of War did them beautifully, but you can't do what God of War did with them because God of War did it. You know, you have to innovate, it can't all be the same. But this mechanic here is a strange one. It utilises dungeon keys and introduces you to them. This is the only area of the game that I have knowledge of where a dungeon key doesn't give you experience. All the other ones I have used have literally just given me a base amount of experience from like a statue. They've never opened up a new path, they've never led to anything interesting, they've all just been kind of banal, which is kind of strange. But the chain puzzle here, this chain took me about 20 minutes to find because for some reason when I stood on that lip the bats didn't show up, and when I jumped towards the chain Gabriel missed it and I died. So as much as I would like to say that the platforming is completely fixed from the previous games, although it has been simplified like most elements of this game, the platforming still sucks dick quite a lot, so be careful with it. This particular instance, 2 hits and you'll die from these vents. This is literally tougher than the boss we just killed, unless you know the pattern. As soon as you know the pattern, it's very simple, but before I did, I died there a whole bunch of times because I'm incredibly impatient and I hate environmental platforming. And I do think you can do it right, you know. I'm going to be sharing both good and bad opinions of this game, but it's never intended to be negative, it's just observational. Like, it's just a critique. Like this, the game is programmed to stop you from fleeing from fights, so whenever you try to climb things, it goes into a cinematic angle, and they will knock you off with a projectile. Earlier on in this walkthrough, I mentioned that the projectiles on this game are incredibly cheap. That is a good example of one of them. But the problems with the projectiles is on every other difficulty but this one, they're an annoyance. On this one, they're lethal. And for some reason, the developers thought it was a good idea to give these rabid monsters guns. And I'll say it now, as I've said it in almost every game where they've given enemies guns. Guns don't work in these action titles, they just don't. There's a reason that in Metal Gear Rising, when you did the ninja run, Raiden chopped up bullets. And that reason is, when you give an enemy a gun, they will shoot you, and it is almost impossible to do anything about it. Like, Ninja Gaiden's a fantastic example. The guns would literally keep you in a guard block. They would just keep on trapping you in your guard until they broke it. But those games just don't give a fuck, man. They throw rocket launcher dudes at you like it's Christmas. And people accept it because it's just Ninja Gaiden, but I don't think anybody can say that it makes the game better or that it makes it any more fun, because it doesn't. And this game has a lot of sequences where things have guns and they shoot you. And I know that's what guns do, and I understand their purpose, but it's just not well thought out at all. And I always bring it back to Devil May Cry, because Devil May Cry did it the best. When something's not on screen, it shouldn't be able to shoot you. You know, it shouldn't be able to do a super powerful, unblockable hit, because you can't see it. And it's one of the things that early Capcom days, early Clover days, and now on to Platinum Games, it seems to be a mechanic or a trope that just doesn't make it into most games. And I don't know if it's because they're not as experienced as those people are at making this type of stuff, or if they just don't care. Because I can always remember the very first time I played Ninja Gaiden. And it was... I didn't play Ninja Gaiden 1 first, I played Ninja Gaiden 2. And I had never played a game where enemies attacked so constantly and never gave you breathing room. I'd never played a game like that. I'd also never played a game where, when the camera wasn't on them, they still did the exact same thing. And that is why I regard Ninja Gaiden 2 as one of the hardest games ever made. Because when I first played it, no game has brutalized me like that game did. Do you see that just then? That fall took 50 damage off me. That was more than the boss did when it hit me with a heavy attack. 50 damage. And there's a little sneaky shortcut here that involves dying. And what I'm going to be doing is, I'm going to use these plinths, or these altars, to get to the switch that removes the seal from the Chupacabra's cell, and then when I fall off, it's going to spawn me back at the beginning of the room, but the Chupacabra is going to be released, so I don't have to mess about with the platforms. And it speeds things up, and if you make a mistake, it's easy too, because I'm very impatient on this game. I dash everywhere, and sometimes the dash just doesn't work. And this is an instance where I try to dash and I fall off, and I end up discovering something quite quick. Because messing about with this is interesting, I guess. It's just not very fun. So is it coming up? Do I fall? There you go. That kills me, puts me back at the start, and then from here I can just get to the Chupacabra really nice and easy, I think. Was that the same place I was before? No, it's a different place. There you go. So yeah, it works a treat. And here is probably the worst voice actor who has been paid to give a performance for a very long time. Since, I don't know, maybe since a couple of speeches from Final Fantasy X by Yuna's voice actor, because those were amazingly bad. But this one, I don't even know what he's doing. He's so eccentric, and it just doesn't work. But if you played the original, you'll remember the Chupacabras, because they were these little assholes that used to nick your gear, and you had to chase them down and get it back. You don't do that on this game ever, which is a good thing. Instead, once you release this dude, he becomes a merchant so you can buy things, which sounds a lot more interesting than it is. So thank you for watching, and you take care now.